Hey guys, I'm just going to take a second and review with you on how to write the equation of a trig function that has been transformed looking at the graph only. These are the steps that you want to go through. First, you want to find the trig function. Two, you want to figure out your transformations. Three, write the function with variables. And four, just work backwards using the graphs to find the variables. Then you'll plug those inside of the function that you've written. Now I am going to be looking at problems 12, and I believe this is problems number 10. So this is 10 and 12. And let me pick a better color. All right, so we're going to go through these steps. Looking at problem 10, I am going to find the trig function. So if I look at this, I'm going to start at 0 or close to 0. And in problem 10, I'm looking at this trig function at 0, and it looks like this is a cosine curve. Notice the only difference with this curve is that it does not start high, it starts low, but it also ends low. So I'm seeing that U or that V, but it's upside down. So that tells me this is a cosine curve. So I am going to write that down, that this is cosine of X. Now, it says figure out your transformations. They'll tell you what type of transformations happen. In this section on our worksheet, they told us that there was only a change to the amplitude and to the period. And we know, thinking about amplitude and period, the amplitude is equal to A. The period is going to be 2 pi over B. All right. So we're going to be trying to find A, and we're trying to find B. Write the function with the variables. So I know this is a cosine function with the transformations of amplitude and the period. So I'm going to be looking at A and B. So I'm going to write this. I know that I'm going to have y equals A cosine of B x. Now I'm going to work backwards using the graphs to find the variables. Well, let's start with the amplitude first. That's probably the easiest and most identifiable. If I look at the graph and I look at cosine, right, its low point and its high point are at 5. So I know that A equals 5. However, because my cosine graph is flipped, remember it starts low and it ends low, I know that there's going to be a negative in front of my 5, right? So that reflection is my negative. So this is y equals negative 5 cosine. And then we got to figure out what this B value is going to be. Okay, so remember our B value, what we're going to do is we are going to just work backwards from this period equaling 2 pi over B. So I'll go over here and I'm going to say, hey, I know the period because the period is one full cycle, and I'm looking at the x-axis. For this to do its thing or do the whole U shape, it's going to end at 2 pi, okay? So this is ending at 2 pi. So I am going to say, hey, 2 pi equals, and 2 pi, remember, is my period, equals 2 pi over B. And I am going to solve for B. Or think to myself, what would I need to plug in for B in order to make both sides equal? And notice there has not been a period change, so the value I'd be using for B is 1. B equals 1. So y equals negative 5 cosine of 1x, or I could just say x. There it is. All right, we're going to try it again. We're going to do problem 12 together, going through these same steps. Sorry, working backwards. So problem 12, I'm going to clear out everything. First thing, let's find the trig function. Let's start at 0. Looking at this is that sideways S, so we know this is a sine curve. So this is sine of x. Now we're going to figure out our transformations. Remember, they just told us this was a amplitude or a change in A, and it was a period change. We know period is equal to 2 pi over b. Now we're going to write the function with variables. So this time it's going to be y equals a sine of bx. Now we're going to work backwards using the graphs to find those variables. Okay, so first we're going to look and see how high up and how low the graph goes to find a. So if we look on this graph on 12, the graph goes up to 2, down to -2, so a is going to equal 2. So if I start writing in to fill in my equation, I will have y equals 2. So y equals 2, and then we know this is sine. And then let's look at the period and see what the period changes. Notice the period is going all the way out to 4 pi. So we're going to use this equation to solve for b. So we're going to say 4 pi is equal to 2 pi over the b value. We're going to work backwards to solve for b. Some of you already know, hey, if I plug in 1/2 into for b, that would give me a 4 pi. If you don't see that, what you're going to do from here is cross multiply to solve for b. Remember, two equivalent fractions, we can cross multiply. This 4 pi is over a1. So I would end up with 2 pi is equal to 4 pi O, or 4 pi b. And then to get b by itself, I'm going to divide by 4 pi on both sides. After I divided by 4 pi on both sides, notice the pi's cancel, and I'll end up with 2 over 4, which is just 1/2, and that would be equal to my b value. So then I just plug that into the equation where b would be, which is right here. So I'll write it in our equation down here. So we would have 1/2 x. So this equation is going to be y equals 2 sine of 1/2 x. Now guys, you are going to continue on using these same steps through your Desmos activity, and you'll be writing the functions for your simple transformations. All right, good luck guys.